Board of County Commissioner meeting to this Board of County Commissioners meeting in terms of submittals or anything of that nature. I am willing to answer any questions, though, about the River Bend PUD that's just north. You'd asked me to come up with some information on that for the committee to consider.
Y'all want to hear anything about that today? I think it was very pertinent on the overall decision was why I asked you to do that and find out that there was a 400-acre PUD right on the other side of the road that goes from Public Works all the way to the river. So anyhow, I felt like that was pertinent to the conversation, but unless the commissioners want to hear anything about it at this point.
Was this how long ago was this?
2007.
2007?
Yeah, the ordinance was 2008-25. So
Okay.
It started in 2007. By the time it got adopted, it was 2008.
Okay, and this, as we understand in our last meeting, this one has no sunset timeline on it, so it's would be an active PUD if somebody decided to take this up and run with it?
I don't want to mince which projects we're talking about. I was referring to the River Bend PUD that's 427
Right,
acres.
that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your question
And there's
is?
no sunset time, I mean, it just continues to be a PUD, it just was not developed, is that
That's correct. That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, so it's in and it's perpetual,
Perpetuity.
right?
That's correct, yes, sir. Unless somebody were to acquire all of those parcels encumbered by that zoning and rezone them to something else, that's what the allowed uses are for. Now, there may have been a clause within the PUD that states, if it has to commence between such and such dates after approval. If it has not commenced, then it's basically, for lack of better words, dead zone. I mean, you can't do anything there because the PUD can't apply, and you can't do anything within the PUD because it's expired.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Zach, you don't know if that has expired or not, because that's a huge development just right in their back, most of these people's backyard. So we don't know if it's expired or anything in that nature?
No, sir, I don't have a definitive answer on that. The hard files for that property is about 6 inches thick, and then the resolution itself that I shared with y'all yesterday was about 48 pages.
Okay.
So I didn't read through everything to see if there was an expiration on it.
I tried to read the whole resolution and I couldn't find anywhere in there where it said it sunsetted. So I'm not saying it didn't, I just couldn't find anywhere that it said that it did.
So is there one common ownership out there on that properties, or is there multiple?
There are not. So originally it was 24 parcels. I didn't count to see how many parcels there were currently. But there's at least 5 or 6 different owners of the land that's zoned PUD.
I don't want to bore these people. I'm going to take up more time, but I just want one more question, if you don't mind. Could someone develop a piece of the property they own inside that PUD on their own without developing the whole PUD?
That's a good question.
So that's a tough question to answer. I mean, really is, because that whole development agreement was contingent upon the fact that no septic or private wells be established for residential use, and that a wastewater treatment plant and access to the county's water infrastructure be provided to support the residential developments out there. So honestly, if somebody approached us wanting to develop one of those parcels encumbered by that zoning, we would then encourage them to rezone it back to whatever applicable zoning district would fit their needs.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, if there's no more questions for staff at this point, then sir, if you want to speak, you're going to have to come to the microphone. We record the meeting and give your name and address for the record.
Julian Wood, 207, 368 207A. And I own that property at 131 Oak Haven. That is where the clubhouse and the marina was going to be. I was told by the planning department over here, or the permit department, that had expired, completely expired. We talked to the attorney about getting it dissolved, and the Farwoods were against it. I think it's Farwoods or Farmwoods that own all the 176 acres over there. They wanted to keep the PUD on. But to my knowledge, it has expired, and I don't think anybody's going to be doing anything in there unless it sells to somebody else.
Right. Well, thank you for that information. Yes, sir. Okay, would the applicant's agent or the applicant like to come forward at this time and do a presentation?
Christina Evans with Matthews Design Group, 7 Waldo Street, St. Augustine, Florida. At the last meeting, I quickly ran through the rezoning criteria at the end of the presentation. These are the findings of fact for rezoning, specifically a rezoning to PUD. So I just wanted to address some of the incorrect statements that are being repeated as justification for denial. Most common is the way to calculate density. This is clearly defined in the comprehensive plan. So any reference to high density, 6, 8, or 12 units per acre is incorrect. The gross density is 2.89. Even if every lot in the development was the minimum size, there would never be more than 160 units on the 55-acre parcel. That policy also mentions allowing flexibility in the lot area requirements. So no, we are not proposing lot area requirements that fit exactly within traditional zoning. RMH does not even have a minimum lot width or area standards. The project has been called a high-density trailer park. As Terry Whitmore described at the last meeting, trailer is an outdated term from when these homes were built to RV standards. That is not the case for these new construction manufactured homes. There were a lot of statements that we've requested a ton of waivers. If you read the development agreement, we have requested 1 for constructing external sidewalks, which County Public Works agreed was not necessary or really desired in that area. Not having internal sidewalks and the 20-foot street width are not waivers. Those are consistent with RMH zoning. Also, at the last meeting, there are a lot of comments about the property owner not being local, not attending local events, and his profits going to Indiana. Those have zero bearing on the approval of a rezoning application. He is the property owner and investing a lot of time and money into improving this corner of East Palatka, which could use an upgrade. There were concerns that the street width and lack of internal sidewalks would not be safe for old people with walkers. So here is a list of other age-restricted manufactured home communities in Florida that also do not have internal sidewalks and also have a similar street width of around 20 feet. So this is River Villas in Satsuma, Crystal Lakes in Zephyr Hills, and Dunedin Village. None of them have sidewalks, all 20 feet wide. Now comparing that to subdivisions in East Palatka, here are other streets that do not have sidewalks and are around 20 feet in width. Magnolia Avenue, Elgin Road, Palm Trail, Cypress Drive, and Moritani Point Road, all around 20 feet wide with no sidewalks. These streets, even East River Road, farther west, is 20 feet wide with no sidewalk. These are streets from the subdivisions northwest on East River Road, and also Moritani Point Road is only 1/4 of a mile west of the PUD. So our development standard for sidewalks and street width fits the surrounding neighborhood and in general with these age-restricted communities in Florida. I also measured a few side setbacks on homes on Magnolia Drive and Palm Trail, and both of those were around 20 feet. So ours side setbacks are around 15 feet, so it's not that much different from what we're proposing. So I did bring up the standards for the Riverbend PUD. This is not located within the urban service area, It was approved to be changed from rural residential to urban reserve. It's directly abutting residential estate, zoning, and agricultural land use, which our PUD is not. It is farther from connections to central water and sewer, farther from major roadways. So this is a PUD in a lower intensity land use that was approved for multifamily development, similar lot dimensions, and a higher gross density than East River. The lot width here is proposed to be 50 feet wide, same as we're proposing. These are the multifamily standards, which have interior lot widths for townhomes at 18 feet wide. These standards for patio homes are almost the same as we're proposing, a lot width of 45 versus 50, but it has the same minimum lot size. Also looking at the 5-foot setbacks, meaning they were approved for a 10-foot structure-to-structure distance, which is what we originally proposed, but have since increased to 15 feet. And most notably, the gross density of this PUD is 3.7 units per acre. And again, this is in a lower land use category than the urban service area of this PUD. There was other statements that the manufactured homes are inconsistent with the predominant housing type in the area. That might apply farther west on East River Road, where manufactured homes are not permitted, but in this area of the PUD they are. We pulled a map of all the existing manufactured homes that are abutting the subject property. There are about 10 of them. I also created a map showing the extent of land where manufactured homes are permitted by right. So that's all the agricultural, R2, and RMH zoning. Here is another visual of all the agricultural zoned land that's part of the urban service area, so qualifies as the holding area for more intense development. And the future plan for these areas is more intense development. If these areas were truly planned to continue as low-intensity agricultural land, then the county would not have invested such money in urban infrastructure such as water and sewer along State Road 207 and Putnam County Boulevard. Our site is directly across from the water plant. So we've seen most of the opposition come from residents to the northwest along East River Road. To the northwest are agriculture and rural residential land uses meant for larger lots, lower density. RE zoning and R is 1 unit per acre. R1 HA is 2 units per acre, which we're only proposing 2.89. Manufactured homes are not permitted there. But again, that does not apply to this corner of the PUD. It's not in a rural land use category. R2, R1 are permitted to exceed the 1 unit per acre, and R2 is specifically meant to include manufactured homes. R2 is directly abutting us to the east. Looking at the density by zoning and what is currently platted, you can clearly see the logical transition to lower density from R2 around 5 to RPUD at around 3 to RE at 1 unit per acre. So to summarize the findings of fact, the PUD is consistent with the comp plan. I've already mentioned the policies on infill development, clustered housing, but I found another one from probably the housing element that says the county shall continue to allow mobile home parks in certain residential zoning where there are adequate public facilities and services of a comparable density near amenities, community facilities, and commercial activity. All of these apply to the proposed PUD and are specific reasons why the owner purchased this property. The second finding is that it differs slightly from the usual code standards. I already went through that last time, how it differs and is enhanced from the RMH zoning. The only other note is the side setbacks. AG, R1, R2, R3, and R4 have side setbacks of 10 feet, meaning 20 feet structure to structure. So we're only proposing a 5-foot deviation from that. The third finding is that it accomplishes at least one of the purposes listed in 45-221. This is the slide I provided at the last meeting where I've highlighted how we meet a lot of those. So the design of this community includes several of the listed quality of life features, a different housing type than a standard site-built subdivision. It includes front porches, parking at the side, the modest setbacks, and also importantly, accommodating a changing lifestyle, different economics, and consumer preferences. 45-222A is essentially that the proposed development would be inconvenient to develop outside of the PUD process. We have clearly seen that people would be opposed to a traditional RMH zoning application. The PUD allows improvements and restrictions to the zoning. It also includes a method for an age-restricted lot lease community, and also in the ordinance are requirements for operation to ensure that it is and remains a high-quality community. So subsection B is again about compatibility, and we've discussed how it's compatible in densing housing type with the existing community and the current entitlements in the surrounding area. We've provided additional screening and buffering along the perimeter of the gated community. There are private recreations for residents. We're preserving all of the wetlands. It's not going to increase flooding or erosion in the area. The traffic report shows the adjacent roadways have capacity for the additional trips. Even though it doesn't meet the threshold, a turn lane will be constructed at the community entrance. There's sufficient parking on site, and it includes bicycle facilities since it is across from the multi-use trail. And the utility and public services are available and have sufficient capacity for the proposed development. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ross Perkins.
Thank you. Thanks for the consideration today. I just wanted to look back at, it helps me to look at this map. No, I don't see it now. There's the zoning area that has the bigger version of the kind of the urban services. Is it? Yeah. Is it? So I don't know where that went, but oh well. Thank you. Yeah, this is just a view. It helps me to better understand the area, to look at this larger map. And, you know, of course, you know, what you can see here, and I don't know if I have a cursor. There we go. This entire area, corridor along 207 is urban services. Christina starred this property in black. There's about an equidistant space east and west of 207, and you know, when I found this particular property, I looked at, you know, land use maps, GIS mapping, location analysis, confirmed with the county, you know, the availability of water and sewer along there. And, you know, my decision really was based on information that the county itself provided and the county designation as urban services through this corridor. You know, I talked to Taylor Douglas about the property. He said it had been on the market about 21 months before it was taken off the market. And you know, I just don't think there was really much appeal to it at the time, and I can kind of understand why. If you look at the adjoining properties, north, south, and east, this is a view right across from where we've proposed the entrance. There's I think it may be an abandoned home, but a certainly unimproved home across the street. Here's another view from the kind of the eastern part of the property looking immediately north, just off River Road. This is where the utility is and the pipes and mechanicals reside. This is the south border immediately off the property, 101 Youngs Lane. I've driven back through there before, and it, you know, looks relatively similar to the home that you can see from the street. And then this is a view east off of 224 Lewis Brewer. The concerns that I had at the time really had nothing to do with zoning. I just assumed that, based on the research that I'd done, that this was an appropriate land use. My biggest concern was about the safety and security of the residents in that community, and also if the immediately surrounding area would actually make it more difficult for me to encourage people to move to that location. So that was really the biggest concern that I had. On a positive note, I've mentioned this in the last meeting, that I felt that the fact that it's an age-restricted community, that we have the ability to have a prospectus guiding the behavior, the rules and regulations, also the architectural standards. I feel really confident with what we're going to be able to put in the community. And I believe we elaborated on this last time, that this is an example of homes that we have in River Villas, and just what that construction and quality looks like in those homes. So I'm going to turn it over to Rudd. Oh, okay. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want to bring me the comment cards?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. Zach, I have a question for you on, if this, and we talked briefly this morning, but very briefly about this. If this property was not in the PUD, how many dwellings per acre would fit on this property, or would be allowed per acre?
Currently, with its zoning that's there now, it'd be 1 per acre,
One.
ag zoning. Now, there's a very small sliver in the southeast corner that's R2, and that would allow for about 6 units an acre,
Okay.
that zoning district.
How many usable acres do we have? I wrote that down on my last notes, but they didn't transfer over. So how many usable acres out of the 55 total?
You subtract out 11.92 for wetlands.
Correct, but it's worth noting, too, that they could mitigate those wetlands and have 55 usable, developable acres. They're choosing to leave those wetlands intact and leave them in their natural state, which would result in about 43.
Well, I don't think that's fair to say that they could. I mean, it's based on all kinds of formulas, mitigation is, so I don't know if that's fair to say that, but
Well,
it could be.
You can try to mitigate out almost anything, but even if they didn't mitigate it out, unless I'm mistaken, they get credit for the amount of land that, in other words, if they've got 50 acres and it's 1 unit per acre, they still get to put 50 units. They just would have to cluster them out of the wetlands. Is that not correct, Zach? They still have the credit for the property.
That's correct. There's a transfer of density allowance within our comprehensive plan and our land development code.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a question. Regarding the turn-in lane, the proposed turn-in lane, that road is not wide enough to put in a turn-in lane. So how would that happen? I mean, land has to come from somewhere.
So unfortunately, Mr. J.R. Grimes is not here to represent Public Works, and I don't know how the conveyance of land would occur in order for that turn lane to be placed.
Well, I would not be in favor of giving up county land for a developer. I mean, do we do that normally?
No, ma'am. Typically, it comes from the property that is benefiting from that improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I think that's what's proposed now, is that the property owner would furnish enough land to accommodate a turn lane there, if indeed that's the way it went.
Well, you just can't tell that from the documents. That's why I was asking.
I got you. Sir?
They're saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm pretty sure it's not their choice. I'm pretty sure if they're going to do it or not.
I was just wanting to make sure that the county, that they could make enough room and that the county wasn't giving up resources.
I got you, not a problem. Okay, we're going to start with the testimony in this case, and we're going to request that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. First one that I'm going to call is Phil Leary. And then you said you wanted Mr. Corn to follow you, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, and if I can not take up any of my 3 minutes, I can address the antiquated PUD.
You get 3 minutes.
Okay, all right, well, real quickly, it's a very simple process. The PUD cannot be developed anymore. I mean, it's past, the development order date is long past. The county can simply go in and administratively rezone that property back to agriculture. That'd solve your problem, and really it has no applicability to this development because that was going to be a Rivertown development, if you're familiar with Rivertown in St. Johns County on 13. So very quickly.
Can I start now? I didn't start the clock. Can I start?
Okay.
Can I start now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Phil Leary, 6052 Silver Lake Drive, professional land use planner, a governmental affairs consultant, and realtor, representing Larry Corn. I'm just going to go over the points that I made quickly at the last meeting, since this is the one that counts. But the proposed PUD rezoning is inconsistent with Goal A1, Objective A11, and Policy A142 of the Comprehensive Plan. It establishes an inconsistent land use pattern in density and intensity. And what the applicant is proposing, or their representatives, is based on antiquated, non-conforming uses. Most all of those mobile homes that are clustered in there that people had put in there to rent would not be allowed under today's code, or even the code 10 years ago. Most of that stuff was put in actually before we had a comprehensive plan, and the first one was in 1977, and zoning wasn't adopted in the county until 1975. So it's really apples and oranges. Specifically to the Land Development Code in Section 44-223, paren 6C, it specifically states that a PUD is either not being placed in the area of agricultural land use, or if placed in the area of agricultural land use, the activity of the PUD will be consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan with regard to development in agricultural lands, which it doesn't meet. So you've got both the comprehensive plan and the land development code that spell out very clearly and legally that it's an inconsistent land use, and the rezoning doesn't meet the criteria of the plan or the land development code. In the last meeting, which I caught the end of, Commissioner Pickens made one of the most salient points I've ever heard a commissioner make on a rezoning case in my 30-plus years doing this, and he was saying that many times people do PUDs in order to shoehorn things in that wouldn't be allowed under the regular zoning. Perfect example of this is you got an age-restricted community, and you're not going to have any sidewalks. And the last thing I'll say is that the urban service line and the urban service area need to be reevaluated and maybe looked at moving that line east, so it's between Putnam County Boulevard and US 17. The River Groves development that's been there for years, all those are either half-acre or acre lots. That's the type of development that we'd want to see. You certainly don't go from half-acre lots to 8 units per acre, and irregardless if they've got 50 acres, the density on the 20 acres they're going to use for the development is 8 units per acre. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stop there and ask my client, Mr. Larry Corn, to come up and speak on some of the agricultural impacts, unless you have any questions.
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, I never figured I'd see this day.
You won't again, either. I think I'm out of my element. Every man that works at my place has left me when this happened. They wanted me to come do it, so I'm going to do it. I'm not going to reiterate anything anybody said about the East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard. Oh, I'm Larry Corn, L&M Farms. Oh man, I'm on Putnam County Boulevard and Cracker Swamp Road. That's 131, I think. And anyhow, we farm every inch of land except this gentleman's place all the way around for miles. And so I'm going to talk about the impact of this on our farm and our packing house, which we've invested millions. And we invest millions every year. So I'm just going to give you a quick summary. It's not a survey. This is absolute fact. It's not a how many cars go. This is how many we bring every single day. Our facility, we have 240 employees, 10 months out of the year. 80 are full-time, besides the office people. We farm 2,000 acres in Putnam County, which is all between where we're talking about and on Cracker Swamp Road to the county line, back 207 to towards Federal Point to the county line, and around the packing house all the way to what she had on the map up there. So we farm 2,000 in Putnam County, and we have 250 in St. John's, 160 in Flagler, which is 2,410 that I'm the farm manager of. And so I know about every piece of land, every ditch in this area where this project's going in. And just our growing cost is over $10 million a season just for the growing of our product. And every one of those, I'm not throwing money at you, I'm throwing how much equipment and how many trucks and how many tractors and how many semis it takes to do that. So 1,600 more acres, we either share crop or we buy or we sell for other farmers in that area between Federal Point and just over the county line into Hastings and on the Cracker Swamp Road. So if you add all that together, it's 4,000 and something acres. And the reason I gave you those figures, when you have 410, I think it is actually, acres, each one of those loads generates, each one of those acres generate at least a load or more of produce, whether it be potatoes, cabbage, broccoli, whatever we grow. It equates to about 160 to 65 million pounds. That's a lot of produce, a lot of trucks. So the point I'm getting at here with my little short deal is it's not hypothetical. It's not laying two rubber things on the road in the summer when hardly no traffic around. But during the season, for 9 months out of the year, you can't get down East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard without meeting something of ours, either trucks, tractors, trailers, all that produce, that 160-something million pounds of produce has to be hauled to our packing house. By the way, I ain't never done this before, so I'm out of my element, but I'm hitting you right from the hip. I don't know any other way to do this. These facts are things that we do. I can document them. You can see them anytime you want to. Just come over and I'll give you a tour of the place. And so every one of those pounds have to come from the field to our shed via Cracker Swamp Road, East River Road, Putnam County Boulevard, Fullwood Road, 207A, and we do take alternate routes because 207 is so dangerous with the speed and stuff. But all of them are pulled by semis, pup trailers that you see going up and down the road. Those are our potatoes. So what I'm getting at is if you tie all that to trucks coming to the packing house each day, then you put that through the packing house and turn it into product, which is 160 million pounds of sellable product. Then you have to have a truck come, and most trucks nowadays are headed down Putnam County Boulevard because that's where the GPS sends them, because they come in off of 295 and 17 and into Palaca, and it sends them down Putnam County Boulevard. So they come, they load, they turn around and go right back the same way. So that's double whammy either way you go. So I don't have I could probably give you information of exactly how many, but I'm within a few trucks of at least 30 trucks a day. Plus we have a year-round repack house that we do. That's quite a few people work there year-round, and those trucks bring and come and pick up. And then all our supplies, we use a pallet under. I'm through. Anyhow, so I'll get through here. All those trucks that come, go, that's double whammy. all the trucks out of the field, that's double whammy. They come to the packing house, go back. And all I'm asking you for is if you'd look at this and see what kind of impact you think it'd have to have this much traffic on a highway that used to just be a cow trail in the 50s. Clyde McCormick paved those roads. I was raised right there. And if our trucks meet, if one of them don't pull over, they'll hit their mirrors. All I'm saying is you can't just turn your head to the traffic that's going to be there and how it impacts a business that spends what we spend. So I appeal to you to hopefully this multi-million-dollar business, your planning commission, and your residents. Hey, if I got any time, I'll tell you about Terry Turner, but I won't. I'll just tell you. I would just tell you.
Here, you're out of time.
I just appeal to you to listen to your residents and your planning commission. And now you wanted a business to speak up. I've done about the best I can do. I hope you deny it. Thank you.
Mr. Corn?
Larry.
Mr. Corn,
Larry,
I have a
Mr.
question.
Wilkinson wants,
Oh, I will be in trouble now.
First,
don't answer no questions about me now, Larry.
first of all, you did great, so thank you for coming. You mentioned 30 trucks a day, roughly. How many years have you been doing this?
Well,
If you don't mind telling me.
L&M has built this business, Mr. McGee, who is the actual owner in North Carolina and the family now of L&M. They used to come here with my daddy back in the 50s, selling produce and all through the 60s, and it just kept building up and building up, and my daddy and Mr. McGee had a partnership, and it wound up going from there, and then Mr. McGee my dad died, and so he and I have been together a long time, and now I'm old, so I'm just an employee. I'm the farm manager.
Well, I understand, but my
If I have to come here anymore, I'm going to quit.
So 40, 50 years? Would you say 40, 50 years? Something like
Ma'am?
that, 40 or 50 years?
Oh,
Something
no,
like that?
we've been here.
No, I mean that you've been there.
Oh, no, I've been farming I've made a living off of that land that she put up there ever since my first field, I was 18.
And in
on East River Road, the land, so a lot of the land that she put up there, we actually, the Hansford land and the Placa Land Fund land and all that land, we had now, and Full Woods has the other piece, but we ain't planning on doing nothing but growing taters on it. That's it.
Well, I understand that, but my question was, what I was leading up to was, how many accidents have you seen involving tractors and
If we're
farm
not very
equipment
lucky,
on those roads?
We've had so many that I imagine Mr. Bates is probably worried about us, but the accidents, most of the accidents happen, we get off the roads and stay in the fields most we can, but any resident here will tell you, you can't go down that road without not hitting us, but somebody's got to move, and just like this particular East River Road ain't too bad, because we got room to pull over in some places, but we're very careful, but we have had quite a few. I can't tell you exactly how many, but we've had a lot. And East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard, where they meet.
Yes, sir.
That's a no with the tractors. We have to just about, and our trucks too, because we're pulling potatoes out of the field, so it's a nightmare, but I'm just here to tell you it's going to impact. If you had a bigger roads and all that stuff, maybe it'd be different. But our business, it's going to impact us in a negative way. That's about all I can tell you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next, Dottie Schmidt.
Hey, I'm Dottie Schmidt, 147 East River Road. We actually own 145, 147, 149, and 151 East River. 145, 7, and 149 all are adjacent, or right with his. This is what you got there is the survey that he had done. There is an overlap in the survey. We've spoke to an attorney. We will be hiring an attorney because he stated he's going to stay over on the other side of the tree line. We need it in writing. There is a concrete county marker They went across it. What are the county markers for your property line? Is that not the property line anymore? So we're gonna hire an attorney, because we're not willing to give up almost a little over a half of an acre of our lands. And if the property line moves over, it's gonna move over all the way down. We think what happened was when when the county put the drainage ditches in on Putnam County Boulevard, you took some of that land. So now the surveyors think that he has X amount of land and they're crossing the concrete county markers. We're not giving up our land. So we're gonna end up getting an attorney and we're gonna take it to court to finalize where it's at. I don't want a bulldozer in my yard taking down my trees. So we needed it put on record per our attorney that there's a discrepancy with the county line or the property line before this gets approved or whatever. So I'm
Thank
not
you.
gonna take my whole 3 minutes.
Okay.
Got any
Next is
questions?
Ray Bunton.
Ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ray Bunton, 147 Dancy Avenue, East Palatka. And the last time we were here, I talked about some of the things we value, and I handed y'all a little 3-page handout that had this wonderful picture on the back that said no shoulders on East River Road at its intersection with, on Putnam County Boulevard at its intersection with East River Road. And so Mr. Corn told you a lot more about what those roads do than I could ever tell you. So I would just go back to what I talked about originally. And one was, we don't think planning staff got this right. They offered up an opinion that this use is better than the existing agricultural use that's been there for the last 75 years or however long. I think everybody has an opinion, and I don't think that's a good one for this piece of property. And it does impact the agricultural operations. And again, Mr. Corn spelled it out better than I can, but there's things that go on in agricultural operations that an intensive residential development won't appreciate, even if they do like to have potatoes and cabbage in their refrigerator. You've heard about the roads. Unless the county's going to start buying new right-of-way and repaving and improving the roads, that's not going to change. And the volume of traffic is certainly going to change if this were approved. And one of the bigger things was that we the county, can't afford to subsidize this project forever. It won't produce the taxes that will support itself for the services that will demand, and we just can't afford any more projects like that. You heard about the sidewalks, and yeah, there aren't sidewalks in the neighborhood, but it'd be nice if it started somewhere, and this would be a good start if you had to have the development. So that's all I had to offer on it. We have the Planning Commission denied the application, and I hope y'all will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Howard Griffin.
I'm gonna start him early.
You gonna start him early on the way up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners, for hearing us out again. It sounds as though there's some numbers, I'm sorry.
Name and address for the record.
Oh, Howard Griffin, 1710 Bellamy Road, Keystone Heights, Florida, 32656. It sounds like some numbers have changed since our previous meeting, because the lot sizes were 40 by 80, and now it sounds like it may be increased to 50 to 90. Is that correct? Because one of my real concerns was the fact that you've got all these mobile homes all stuck together in a site whereby if there's a fire, there is no way that you can prevent that from spreading, especially with 20-foot roads, no sidewalks. The previous design was that 10 feet structure to structure. It sounds like that's changed now to 20 feet structure to structure. So that's better, but I certainly wouldn't want to make a big investment in that and have something like Maui to come wiping through that, which we know that can happen. I think we have problems with someone wanting to come into the neighborhood and ask for a lot of waivers, a lot of overrides, and not trying to improve our neighborhood. Just like one of the people mentioned earlier, we need sidewalks desperately. And I'm sure every one of you folks have driven up and down East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard. If there's anybody on that road and there's another car facing you, there's a problem. Somebody's going to be in trouble if you don't really watch them there. And so therefore, one of the things they want to do is to put off the turn lanes. We need turn lanes in there if you're going to have this kind of added congestion in that area. They're wanting to put slash lines, paint lines on the roads instead of turn signals for people to walk across. They will not want to put sidewalks in the park. And if it's going to be a 55 and over, you've got people there with wheelchairs and all sorts of assists to walk and so forth. I'd think that would be even more important in a 55 and over park than it would be otherwise. And just as a quick number here, I figured out in the event that it's changed to 50 to 90, you can still get almost 10 mobile homes per acre. That's a lot of congestion. If you feel as though you need to pass this thing, I would say that the first thing I would look at is taking away all waivers. You really need to make sure we get sidewalks, we get expanded roads, we need turn signals, we need standard size roads in and out of the park. Right now they're wanting to do 22 feet in and 20 feet in the park with no sidewalks. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Larry Peterson. If you'd give us your name and address, please, sir.
Larry Pedersen, 208 Moritani Point Road, East Palatka. The last time I spoke, I had the advantage of having a lot of people come before me that said a lot of really good things. I'm not saying the people before me didn't say a lot of good things, there just aren't as many of them. I want to call your attention, first of all, to the Putnam County Land Development Code, page 5, item 7, where it says connection to all sidewalks, greenways, trails, bikeways, and transit stops along the perimeter of the PUD is required. Where existing perimeter sidewalks do not exist, sidewalks shall be provided by the developer. And then there's unless approved within the PUD ordinance. I'm asking you, if you by any chance approve this, to make sure that that waiver is not granted, that sidewalks are provided, perimeter sidewalks. Because if any of you have ever walked down Putnam County Boulevard or East River Road, you know that if you're walking or riding a bicycle and some cars coming, you better get off the road if you value your safety. And especially on Putnam County Boulevard, there's no place to get off the road, okay? There is no shoulder there. And I know all of us have at some time witnessed a car being pulled out of that ditch because it's just not safe. That road is not safe. The extra traffic makes it even more unsafe. And we at least need the sidewalks. Basically, we need that development not to happen, but if it does go on, we need sidewalks. And I also want to say that this development is not consistent with what's around it. You saw some pictures. Those pictures don't really capture what's really around it. They caught a couple of bad sites, a couple of bad places, but that's not really what's all around that. Most all of us have at least 1 acre or more, and we don't have to have sidewalks in those 1 acre lots because there's no traffic. Down Mortani Point Road, there's only 10 or 15 people that live there. Okay, so we don't need sidewalks there because we don't have the level of traffic that we're going to have from this development. So that's a totally spurious argument. And saying that it's not really that dense because we're counting all the 55 acres doesn't really look at how close the houses are to each other. And we've still got the problem of how is the fire department going to even get in there and navigate the roads that they have. I mean, there are just so many problems with this development that it needs not to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pedersen. Will Pettinger?
Good afternoon. Will Pettinger, part of the East River Road contingent, 153 East River Road, immediately adjacent to the property. I want to follow up just a little bit on two things because we've seen this movie before. On the handout thank you very much for handing those out. On the first page at the bottom and the second page at the top, the PUD zoning requirements, I think there's 8 or 9 of those elements. Most of them are completely subjective. And in my subjective opinion, as I've itemized them here, you guys have no obligation whatsoever from a perspective from what the zoning requirements say. There's no obligation whatsoever to approve this application. And I would argue, as everybody else has that's come up here, except for the developer themselves and their representatives, that this is not good for the county. While I'm trying to find the other place to show you, I did a little bit more research, and the sidewalks seem to have been made a big deal out of. Maybe the biggest reason for that is that sidewalks cost about $9 a square foot. It's going to be $250,000, $300,000 as a waiver exemption, whatever you want to call it. That they're not going to have to lay out. That's on slide 11. The other one thing that I know that I have time, this is a compilation of all of my research over the last several months, is that on slide number 25, land lease taxes per year, yes, they generate more revenue than agricultural does. In this case, if the River Villas establishment that the developer owns now is any indicator, there should be about $61,000 versus the, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 or whatever it is coming in. If the county had site-built houses, 75 of them in there, just for argument's sake, on average, right across the street from my house, there's a property there that's sold for $240,000, or it's assessed at $240,000. It brings in $3,250 a year as a homestead parcel. So that's going to bring in, it's a $170,000 house. So it's less expensive than most of these mobile homes are going to cost if they were actually not land lease. So that would bring in about $244,000 to the county. At 175 lots, that number keeps changing. Started at 215, I heard it's down to 160 now in terms of the number of trailers that are going to be put on there. At $500 a month, that's almost $1 million. I hesitate to use the word irresponsible, but it's not a good idea at the very best case scenario, to grant $1 million of outflow for a $60,000 inflow to the county when we can have housing that is much more attractive and brings in a lot more county revenue. That's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nancy Wild. Hey, Nancy.
Mr. Turner, Mr. Pickens, Zachary, and the three of you for answering questions that I submitted. Makes the process, I think, legitimate, so thank you very much. My main concern is the adequacy of having Nancy Wild, 237 Moritani Point Road, East Palatka, 32131. I was all excited. My main concern is, and I know it's approved to have only one exit and entrance, but for the safety of the residents, I know you explained that there would be 2 people per unit, so that would be up to, 320 people, 320 cars. That doesn't include visitors or their cars, but to have just one entrance and exit that the tenants can use is a concern for safety. I know that there's an EMS, I think, Zach, maybe you told me, EMS and a police emergency area that they can come through, but the tenants cannot go through that area. So if the gate isn't working, which happens, if there's an accident in that area, if a car breaks down, people can't enter and exit. And if there was a fire, an emergency, other than using the police or EMS, I think that is a safety hazard. The other concern I have is, I think, Zach, you were saying that there is a lift station that'll be placed there. I know there are issues with lift stations. Recently in Tampa, 630,000 gallons of sewage went into their river because the electricity was turned off, and the lift station, over a period of 4 or 5 days, emitted that much sewage into their drinking water. So I know we'd like to say things don't happen, but we know that they do. So that would be a concern because we're adjacent to the St. Johns River. And so I wanted to know what kind of maintenance the lift station would have if by chance the pump goes out, there's a leak, electricity goes out. Who would be responsible for making sure that that was taken care of and that water wasn't leached into the river? So those are my main concerns, and I appreciate everything.
Thank you for coming, Nancy. Vernon, Grand George.
Vernon, Grand George, 107 St. John's Boulevard in East Palatka, about a mile from the proposed site. I'm here in opposition to the proposal in its current form. There's nothing unique about this, which is one of the PUD requirements. It's just another senior community with narrow streets, no sidewalks. Also personally concerned that it may delay the expansion of water and sewer to other homes in East Palatka that have been waiting for some time. Several of your neighbors and constituents are here for the same reason. Based on conversations with neighbors after the last meeting on October 24th, I would say that had there been an evening meeting, our turnout would have probably been double. Working folks have to work. But they are, my neighbors anyway, are very concerned. According to data from an analytic company called Stacker.com, Florida is the #1 state with the most seniors. By 2034, there will be more seniors than children nationwide. But Florida has already reached that distinction. It's easy to see why Mr. Perkins sees this proposal as financially rewarding based on Florida's aging population. What Florida and Putnam County needs are housing for families that own their own homes, filling positions in stores and businesses, teachers, fire and police, men and women, city managers, tradesmen. These could be individual homes where the L&M employees could walk to work. Anyway, there'd be families that are tax-paying people that could even use perhaps the amenities the county has put across the street, basketball courts, baseball fields, which the seniors are not unlikely to use. It would be great if Mr. Perkins would give the community something that we need, something we could even support. During the last meeting on the proposal on October 24th, when another speaker espoused similar sentiments, I overheard Mr. Perkins say, "Not in my wheelhouse." this is an enterprising gentleman from Indiana that's capable of acquiring property, building houses, building roads, connecting to infrastructure, but for some reason, that's not in his wheelhouse. It's kind of like a chef saying, I can poach an egg, but I can't fry one, in my opinion. He's more capable of building something that we would like and we could support, and I encourage you to turn this proposal down in its current form. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Susan Grand George. I remember Grand George. Grand George. You
Grand
told me
like
that
piano,
last
George
time.
like
George.
Washington, all one word. So I was going to start. Anyway, I sent emails and I spoke before and I gave you handouts earlier. So I'm just going to kind of share a story that happened in my house yesterday. I had 2 house guests from the D.C. area and they said, tell me about this meeting you think you have to go to. So I described the project to them and one of them said, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want that, all the traffic. You just tell them there'll be too much traffic. And I said, well, we don't know how much traffic. That's not a valid argument. Well, tell them you just don't like it. That's not really a valid argument either. Let me give you the no-brainer talking points. I said the county commissioners have an obligation to vote for what's best for the county, what's best for its residents, its citizens, and what maintains the integrity of the legislative ordinances they've already created as a governing force. So there you go. One is we've been through. This is a leased lot development where a fraction of the revenue comes to the county that would if they were owned. So is it in the best interest of the county? I don't know. Number 2, it requires a zoning change that requires compromises to ordinances you've already established. So not a good support of your integrity. 3, it's touted as being good for senior citizens. We've been through the sidewalk part of it. Is it affordable for them? Well, there are homes on lots that they could own for the same price as these, and these come with a lease that is constantly being reevaluated and can go up at any point. And also, senior citizens often require modifications to their homes, and there was a home care health nurse who spoke at the Planning Commission who was very distraught because she works in Villa Farms, and she says those structures can't be modified often for the kinds of needs that a senior citizen might have. And my friend said, well, for Pete's sake, Susan, why are you even going to the meeting? There's no way they can vote for that. So I urge you to say no to this project, and I hope I can call Deborah at the end and let her know she was right. Thanks.
Thank you. Virginia White.
I am Virginia Gail White. I go by Gail with a Y. I live at 117 Rivers Edge Drive in East Palatka. I lived there for 27 years. And Mr. Coyne did damage our mirror on a door, and they were wonderful people to work with. So thank you very much for that. And I agree with everything Mr. Leary said. I was very impressed by the notification signage around that property this time, because last time I really wasn't sure how big it was, but now I do. My mind has not changed since the last meeting. I am definitely against allowing this future eyesore development at this proposed location. I'm really shocked at how little revenue a manufactured home park, did I call it the right thing, will bring in over the years. I'm really concerned over the certain congestion of traffic at this already heavily traveled intersection. For the past 2 weeks, I imagined a 3-way stop at Putnam County Boulevard and East River Road. I didn't like it. Since our last meeting, I attended a fundraising event of one of our best that Putnam County has to offer. At that event, I heard glowing plans for the future of our county. I was excited to hear about our potential growth. So I'm not against growth. I was sad to hear about a project that was almost on the books a few years ago, but was canceled last minute because our infrastructure was not acceptable to support the project. I'm talking about our schools. Just a few years ago, our school system was 66th out of 67 in the state at its worst performing school for graduation numbers. So our leaders had to fall back, take years to address that problem, and change the numbers and the perception. Recently, we were in the 20s. Last year, I think we were like 16th. They've reorganized things, and now we're in the 20s. Still, the problem was addressed. Then the community agreed to tax itself to invest in our schools and our children. And now, ground was broken last week on a new school, one of 3 that will be built next year, with the plans to add several more, giving our children the best opportunity for learning and achievement. This vision does not get realized in any way with the 55 and up community that adds little tax revenues but impacts our existing infrastructure, roads, traffic, water, not to mention sheriff and fire protection. They would have no motivation to vote for a school tax. I'm not saying that there is no place for 55 and up manufactured park in East Palatka, but it should be in an area that is not a detriment to the existing community because it is not an asset to people who have already invested in this outdoor-friendly, high-value, family-centered area of East Palatka. And did I mention I do still live on a dirt road? I do have to say for you, sir, that I do ruffle.
Ma'am, you need to speak to me. If you want to speak to him, you can catch him after the
No,
meeting.
well, I'll tell you that every time they mention 55 and up, they talk about a wheelchair. So it's not quite in that place yet, but thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, we're going to take a 3-minute break, recess. Let's try to hold it to 5.
Getting to him.
Do what?
I said that coffee's getting.
You and Linda are next. Which one of y'all would like to go first? David, okay. I'm going to call the meeting back to order, and we're going to start with David Gerardin. If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
I forgot it. David Gerardin, 105 Shores Lane, East Palatka. I don't even have to unfold it. I just want to say I hope that your vision for Putnam County is more than trailers, specifically high-density trailers stuffed into places that have, are already established to single-family homes. And I hope you just make the decision today that this land lease trailer part in favor of development that helps against this, and in favor of development that helps both the business growth and the community growth of our county. So all I got to say now is, since you've heard all this before, and there's no sense to get up here and beat a dead horse, but this development in this particular area, guys, just ain't a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Gerardin.
Linda Gerardin, 105 Shores Lane, East Palatka. You know that I'm opposed to this development in this site. It's just the wrong location. It does not fit into our neighborhood. That's our vision of our neighborhood. It doesn't fit in. The traffic study is very suspect in many, many points. I too, like you, Ms. Wilkinson, I can't vision that turn lane and not impacting the drainage ditches that are there and how they can possibly do that on East River Road. The last month you inquired about the sale of the structures, and in reality the sale of those structures is only on resale, not the original purchase. The Planning Commission admitted that they had kind of not had perfect vision into the future when they developed all the codes and maps. That was one of the reasons that it was turned down. I think you should listen to your Planning Commission and not insult them by ignoring their recommendations. I'm in favor of growth. It just needs to be planned and done nicely, and with an improvement to the economics of Putnam County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Lana Bunton. Lana, I didn't know you were going to speak next. I would have called you back right behind Ray if you wanted me to. I wouldn't have made you wait this long. They hid you down at the bottom of the stack on me.
That's okay, because I was late getting here. Okay. Lana Bunton, 147 Dancy Avenue, East Palatka, Florida. Just a couple of things, and I'll try to be very short. It's in very big print because I am older, so it's a little harder to read. One of my first questions is there been any consideration by the board about emergency shelter for this facility? We have one emergency shelter in East Palatka at the Brown and Pierce School from County Line, 1 mile from Hastings, until Road 308 in Crescent City, at the Middleton Burney Elementary School. How will that work with approximately 300 more people that are all in mobile homes that will be required to go to shelter if they want to be safe? That's a tough one, and who's going to pay for that? Are we going to pay for it? They don't have property taxes that they're going to pay for it. So it's a consideration I think you need to give. The flood zone information in the application, if you look at our property appraiser, they say 23 acres is swamp and waste acreage, which would leave 32 acres, which they say is residential acres. You take the pond that's in the middle, you take the roadways out, you're down to about 25 acres. So the density is going to be tough, and it's still going to be wet right there. Do you ever wonder why out-of-state developers come here? Because it's more profitable and easier than in their residency states. If you're up to some interesting reading, go to the Indiana Municipal Code, Section 11525, mobile home community plans, Mr. Perkins' home state, and check out their restrictions on PUD mobile home parks. Fun read. Just about their restrictions, they don't allow more than 10 acre gross per acre. We allow 24. The roads have to be a minimum of 20 feet. But the interesting thing is they have to be 7 inches of concrete. Well, on a subgrade, with 10 pounds per square inch hard, or durable plant mix asphalt comparable. That'd be great if we could all have that. The mobile homes cannot be allowed to be closer than 20 feet of each other. And no mobile home or building shall be located within 50 feet of any public street. Think about Putnam County Boulevard and East River Road. Walkways not less than 2 feet wide shall be provided from all mobile home spaces to service buildings. And no mobile homes are allowed to be occupied until the entire mobile home park is complete and the amenities are in place. In Indiana, they have 1,100 mobile home communities like this. In Florida right now, we already have 5,131. Think about it. It could be bad. I want to thank y'all for being our advocates, and I hope in this situation that you will advocate for all of the people in this room that want to see Putnam County go forward in a good fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. Jerry Hafner. I know you're old, but walk a little faster.
Jerry Hafner, 122 Hilty Lane in East Palatka. Couple things. First of all, Mr. Korn's discussion today I found very interesting. My dad used to farm 55 acre, or back in 1955 and late up through the 70s, used to farm several hundred acres of flowers right out there where Mr. Korn is now. So I'm quite familiar with all the property. I married my wife who was raised right down the street from this proposed development. We still live there today with a 3-family, 7.5 acre compound. So we are not real anxious to see this proposed development go through. I was amused by some of the pictures that were shown earlier, the mobile homes on certain pieces of land and so forth. Well, Mr. Pedersen and I guess Phil Leary also pointed out that those would never be allowed today, the way they're in there now. So, and it's a fact. I mean, there's stuff in there. Most of them are older and probably soon will be gone. Everyone on East River Road, 207A, Putnam County Boulevard, live in a very rural environment and love it. And we hope that y'all will not allow that to be destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Please, that's not going to help. I'm just telling you, please, let's not turn this into a circus. Clint Porch.
Good afternoon. Clint Porch, 111 Mauritania Point Road. I live about 3 blocks down from the proposed development. And one of the things that strikes me when I come to these meetings is really how complex the language is that is spoken in here when we talk about codes and zoning and future land use. And so when I heard that this was consistent with future land use, I get that term thrown around a lot in here, and it's like, wait a minute, consistent with future land use, consistent with existing building structures or homes. I had to run out and do my own analysis. So what you're looking at in front of you is a homegrown analysis around neighborhood consistency. So I just want to walk you through what we're looking at here and see what you all think about this. On the left, you see a typical high-density mobile home park, very packed in tightly. A lot of left to be desired here, in terms of looking at these structures. Not a lot of grass, not a lot of place for kids to run around. Quite honestly, it reminds me something out of communist North Korea, Moscow, somewhere. I don't know, but not something I really want to drive by and look at every day of my life, thinking about the volume of traffic coming out of these places. It's just going to be a huge impact to our community. So back to the analysis. Sorry, I kind of went down the rabbit hole there. When you look at these, honestly, ask yourselves, would you want to live in one of these? Would you want to live next to one of these? I think the answer is probably no. Now, holding up over time, we see what some of these structures over time look like. I know we saw some pictures of some of the remnants of some old homes out in East River Road. That's really not a true representation. And I think if you look at box B, this is a representation of houses that are within 2-block radius, some are directly across the street. And you'll notice some immediate differences. A lot of green grass, flowers, gardens. There's actually some agriculture behind some of these homes. They've got chickens, horses, cows. And one of the main photos I want to draw your attention to is in the middle of the page there. It looks like an empty road. That's actually my neighborhood. It's full of houses. The reason you don't see them is because there's a lot of land between them and the road. Compare that to box A. Not a lot of land, not a lot of soul in these houses. These are not consistent neighborhoods. They'll never be consistent neighborhoods. I urge you to please vote no on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Debbie Griffin.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry, I have a cold. My name is Debbie Griffin. My husband Howard and I live at 1710 Bellamy Road, Keystone Heights, Florida. We're building at a house now at 135 Oak Haven Lane, which is right off of East River Road. And that's the reason for our concern, because we're held to a higher standard than this gentleman is trying to hold himself to. And I don't think it's fair for him to come in and ask for all these allowances and exceptions and things that he's doing, because we don't get that same treatment. And we've been here for 35 years, I think. We've lived in Putnam County. So that's one part. And the other part is that I think that you look around and you say, what about the neighborhood? And these people are not trying to fit into the neighborhood. They're not trying to meet their neighbors. They're not trying to improve the neighborhood, which is what we've done. We've met an awful lot of nice people since we've been here, and it's very remarkable that they are as involved as they are in trying to make sure that the neighborhood stays the same. And when we decided to buy this property, we drove around and we looked at it. We liked what we saw, obviously. The houses are well maintained. Everything is well maintained. It's a beautiful area, and I realize that change is coming to Putnam County, but you have it within your power to make the change a good change or a bad change. And in my view, this mobile home intensive use plan is a bad change. And I hope that you will vote no. And one more thing I'd like to say is that we are in the process of building a house, as I've told you, and we are having to do a new well and do septic, and yet this gentleman is going to connect into services that are already provided. And I'm saying, wow, why does he get to go ahead of us? So that doesn't seem exactly fair to me. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you for your time. I appreciate your input, and I hope that you make the change for the better for Putnam County, because we all have a vested interest in where we live and what we do in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more cards, Ashley? Bring them to me. Thank you, ma'am. Andrea Conover. State your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Andrea Conover. I live at 105 Rivers Edge Drive in East Palatka. I drive past this property every day to and from work here in the city where I own Azalea City Brewing Company. I've lived in Palatka in Putnam County now for 7 years and love it. I'm not against growth and I'm not against density. And I know growth is coming, especially in East Palatka. That's why I chose East Palatka, because it's great. But I'm against that kind of land lease mobile home development because the county doesn't get as much revenue as we need from that development, from these 175 homes that are going to be there. As long as I've lived here, that's what I've heard, why we're low in the income, low in property taxes, we're low, we're, the rural county, and just, we don't have enough revenue to do the things that our residents would like. And most of it, the reason why is because of that kind of mobile home development, and I just don't understand why we would even consider doing more of it, because it's not really going to help our county. Thank you.
Thank you. That was your last card, Ashley. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak before I close public participation? Okay, come on, David. You've had all this time. You didn't feel like filling out a card, a speaker card. I've known you long enough. I can give you hell, David.
Thank you, Terry. David Kovacs, 219 Mauritania Point Road, East Palatka, Florida. And I want to thank everybody who's come up here and spoke out against this. They've all had very good points to consider in regards to this issue. And I won't repeat those, so I'm going to give you the gift of time. I do want to make sure that you're aware that there is a petition out there with 534 current signatures on it against this PUD, all of which are people in most likely East Palatka as well. So please consider that. I know that a lot of people have spoke here, but there's a lot more people that object to this too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, I won't get on you like I did him. Yeah, I'm going to let you rebut, Rudd. You can come on. It'll sound, right now is fine, sir.
Rudd Jones, 283 East End Road, San Mateo. Your neighbor and Mr. Corn's neighbor as well. One thing I want to say real quick off the bat, I know there's a discrepancy in the property survey.
Hey, Rudd, you're going to have to talk to me, brother.
You're right. There's a discrepancy in the property survey. It was shown up in the survey when we had it done. It's an old Captain Tom Fortune survey where he's had an extra link in his chain or some problems. We're respecting the overlap. We're not doing anything beyond the tree line or anything like that. So that's not an issue, that we're not going into that area that might be disputed on the survey. At any rate, I just wanted to address a few things very quickly about the project and how it's been reviewed and how it's going forward. From a drainage standpoint, all development on the site is regulated by the Water Management District in the county. All the drainage from East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard will continue to drain through and around the property like it does now. No drainage will go to those roads. It'll be subject to nutrient level analysis, and all runoff from the property will have to be better than currently drains to the river and no higher rate and better quality. The density is fully in compliance and much less dense than provided for in the comprehensive plan and the future land use. It's less dense than existing approved zoning and land use adjacent to it to the east and south. And this shouldn't be a reason to not approve the project, likewise with the drainage. From a utility standpoint, the project's in the urban service district. The county has water and sewer mains adjacent to the property, put there to serve the property when it's developed. Capacity is available and utilities need customers. All fire service requirements will be met. And this isn't a valid reason to deny the project for reasons related to utilities. From a traffic standpoint, traffic study was performed that found the project does not have produce a volume of trips that create negative effects on the roadway or reduce current capacity. Study also determined that projected traffic is not sufficient to warrant a turn lane, but in spite of that, the applicant's doing it to address concerns expressed by some at the county and residents. Peak hour traffic projected is around 1 trip a minute from the project. This can't be a legitimate reason to turn down the project. Mobile home use. The current zoning and land use allow mobile homes. There are many existing mobile homes within a stone's throw of the project itself. Much of the surrounding zoning allows mobile homes. This can't be a legitimate reason to turn this project down. Also, any right-of-way that would be needed for road improvements, for turn lanes, sidewalks, anything like that, is going to be dedicated by the owner of the property. The county's not giving up any right-of-way for anything. As far as compatibility with neighboring properties, you've seen in the slides, to the north of us is the county yard. A little further to the west, abandoned home. There's a few homes right on East River Road, right at the western boundary, one of which is a mobile home. There are mobile homes to the west of us on less densely zoned land. There's a very heavy tree line there between the properties that will be maintained. Plus, there will be a perimeter opaque fence and landscaping all the way around the property. It's not incompatible with what's around it now. This can't be a good reason to deny the project. Internal streets. The project has 20 and 22-foot wide streets planned. That's the same as all the subdivisions in the whole area around there, and it's the same as East River Road. If that's good enough for them, it ought to be good enough for here. There's nothing wrong with 20-foot streets, private streets. And these are private streets. They're not roadways. They're not subject to providing right-of-ways, and the county will never be asked to or obligated to do any maintenance or repair on these roads. Same with all the on-site utilities. No obligation of the county to maintain any of these. Sidewalks. None of the neighboring communities have sidewalks in them. I drove around, well, I couldn't remember any sidewalks in East Palatka I've ever seen. Driving around today just to make sure, there's an old sidewalk in front of Browning Pierce 2 that goes from Putnam County Boulevard to the school, not beyond, and it was put there for the school. And there's an old sidewalk in disrepair along Browning Pierce Campus 1. Those are the only sidewalks I can find in East Palatka that aren't on a county road. So it's not inconsistent that this project doesn't plan on having sidewalks internally. We met and talked with the county about sidewalks. There's a bike path that runs along Putnam County Boulevard that provides all the pedestrian and bicycle capacity that's necessary in that area along that street. East River Road, a sidewalk built there goes to nowhere. So it doesn't really serve any purpose. We talked about that with the county staff. They were fine with us providing crosswalks from our internal sidewalk to that street crossing. If the county wants something else, we'd be open to considering it. That's what we have proposed. Property taxes. A lot's been made about that. But the project's going to pay property taxes in accordance with the law. And that's what everybody does. And just because one person doesn't think it's the way the law ought to be, or somebody else doesn't think it's the way the law ought to be, that's what the law says. And that's what we're going to do, is comply with the law. And I don't think that can be a legitimate reason for turning down the project when you meet the law. So in summary, staff recommends approval, and that should carry a lot of weight, and it does carry a lot of weight. But it's the board's decision ultimately to make that decision. So we've come here to refute misinformation about the project and provide all the information we can about why we think you should approve the project. So we respectfully request you approve it, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilkinson, Rudd, she'd like to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So in the northeast corner of the property where you have the crossing for pedestrians that would cross at the three-way stop, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. The county plans to make that a three-way stop.
Mhm.
That's something I think it should have been for a long time. I grew up driving through that intersection. My father almost got killed in that intersection one time. And it's been all different configurations of two-way stop, four-way stop, now three-way with the closing of that road. So the county's going to three-way stop that, and we're going to put crosswalks in using thermoplastic, not paint, to create crossing conditions at those stops.
So help me get a vision here. If you're a resident in your area, in that PUD, and you're going to have a fence with a gate, and I think there was a bollard was mentioned so that would keep out golf carts,
People
that
couldn't
kind of
drive
stuff.
their golf carts out on the road.
Okay, so now we have a busy three-way intersection with lots of traffic, and we're going to put the pedestrians across that road as well?
That's stop conditions, just like everywhere in town.
Mhm.
Everywhere you go, there's a stop condition, there's a road crossing.
And then the physical culvert, I guess you would say, you'd have to have, that's a ditch system right there, right?
On the property side, the drainage, except maybe in severe events, splits right at that corner. Some of it goes south along Putnam County Boulevard to a ditch that's along the south property line of this project, and then it goes from there back to the swamp and to the river. The
So
portion of East River Road, the drainage on East River Road in front, drains to a ditch that runs through the center of the property about where we divide between the portion of the first phase and the second phase.
So some kind of culvert or something would have to be installed there?
We'd probably keep some of that as an open ditch and culvert some of it as we needed to cross under roads and other things. But all sized and designed to maintain the same level of drainage that exists today. And that's something Water Management District reviews very carefully.
Yeah, and my point wasn't to the drainage, it was to safety. So when you're crossing, there's going to be a culvert there for people to cross over to get onto?
I don't know if there's a culvert that's necessary at that point, but it's something that we haven't looked into 100% of the detail of that. But if there's a culvert necessary there, it would probably truncate across the property and be in an easement across the corner of the property.
Uh-huh.
It wouldn't be right out jammed up against the road.
Okay, I was just trying to get a vision of how people are going to leave the corner of your property to get to the trail.
If there needs to be a culvert there, there'll be a culvert there set far back enough from the road so that it's safe.
Okay. All right.
I think that's all.
All right, well, we appreciate your time.
Do you have something you wanted to add, sir? Come give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Joe Largay. I live at 505 Wilson Road in Hastings, St. Johns County. I own a half dozen properties here. And in consideration of this, if I had to buy something for my parents, I would consider it certainly, being that they're building a new hospital at 207 and 95. Everywhere else in your county, if you look at where there's a mobile home park and the proximity to healthcare, it's way over here on 19. And like, say, from Satsuma or Wilaka, that's a haul. I tell people you might as well say your prayer and expect to die before you get there, because it's just not going to happen in time. But with that and where they're located and the proximity with the bike trail, I mean, that's ideal. That's nice. And these different things that they're recommending as far as, the complaint was taxes and revenue for the county. But all those mobile homes, they have a sticker. Every year they have to renew, if I'm not mistaken, do not? And that generates money. And we're talking about housing that's potentially affordable for an elderly population that, where else is that? And as far as proximity of the yards and the sizes, you would want to put more places in a smaller zone and then hopefully not develop all the land next to the river, but leaving that for the wildlife. And as far as that mitigation, my question would have been, do they plan on mitigating too much further of that, or is it going to be left to nature? But with all that being said, I'm not always for something like this, but if the county was to consider it, why not? I mean, it's literally, as the gentleman said, maybe 30 trucks a day. That's not a lot of trucks when you look at where other places and other farms and people have to cohabitate. That's not a lot. And if you're actually adding revenue, I would be more concerned about where they're going to get groceries. And from way over there, you're going to go to Hitchcock's. I mean, we need that source of developed, but you get that developed by having more people. So, Joey, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before I close public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment at this time and board deliberation.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, sir. I was asked by somebody in the audience, what's my vision of Putnam County? And I was on the phone with someone from over in East Palatka that said, if you stood on the water tower, what would you see? And I've been thinking a lot about that. 50 years ago, I wouldn't have seen a whole lot down in that area. Today, I see a lot more. And I think in the future, the vision of Putnam County is I don't think we're going to see the farmland that we currently have. I think we're going to see, with the improvements that we put down there, we are inviting people to come. That's just the way it is. We had a person here a few months back talk about infill, and that kind of makes common sense. I do have a problem with the traffic. I do have a problem with the other project, but that's a whole nother conversation. I do have a problem with the taxation structure of this project on the backs of other taxpayers. Our tax pay, whether you like it or not, ad valorem taxes are not going to sustain counties in the future. It's just not going to happen. I don't know what the answer there is. We talk about mobile homes don't pay, and currently they do pay in Putnam County. It's called payment in lieu of taxes. We get money from the state government, but not to the extent. But people keep voting themselves in a tax decrease. Every time we go to the ballot, we got another tax break coming. Well, you keep throwing people out of the pot, there ain't a whole lot of people left in there. And we're still supposed to provide services to the level that our citizens want. And I don't know what that breaking point is. I don't. But I don't think taxes are fair. But I do think that this project, in my opinion, is not equitable. If I had 150 homes on that property that were single-family residents, and each one of them were contributing to the tax base, I might be rethinking that position. But I'm having a hard time getting there right now. And I want growth. But I campaigned on less density, keeping our rural nature. Kind of a slap in the face right now for me. And I'm trying to, I'm thinking about the gentleman in the Bible, the king who has to cut the baby in half. It's just not a good scenario to me. But I think in that area, traffic is a main concern, and I think we need to start planning better, because in the next 50 years, when I'm no longer here and some of us are in this room aren't here, East Palatka is going to look a lot different than what it looks like today. And we really need to start looking at what that growth is going to do for that area. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like for us all to declare our communication again, if that's possible. And I'd like to declare I have had communication on both sides of this project. And again, it's not going to affect my decision in this process.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, you had any ex parte communication?
I have, sir. I've talked to many sides, gotten many emails, phone calls, and it will not affect my decision-making process.
Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, I've talked to a few people about it, answered many emails, had a Zoom meeting with Matthews Design. I believe that's the name of the company, and so, but it won't affect my decision.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
Yeah, I had a Zoom meeting as well with Matthews Design and the developer. Also have responded to phone calls and emails from residents in the area. And it will not affect my opinion.
Okay, I as well have talked to both sides and had a virtual meeting with Matthews Design Group. It will not affect my decision.
I'm ready to make a motion, Chairman, if you'd
Have
like.
at it.
I'd like to make a motion to deny ordinance number 2023-018, amending county zoning map, and ordinance of Putnam County, Florida, amending the Putnam County zoning map for a certain parcel of land from agricultural, AG, and residential R2 to planned unit development, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. I move that we deny this.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Pickens?
I'll second it for more discussion.
Okay. What would that discussion be, Mr. Pickens?
I just have the same concerns. I'm not saying this is a bad project, but where it is, the density, it concerns me along with the roads there, and also the traffic that it'll generate. So that's all I got.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For me, it's the safety and welfare and well-being of our residents in that area. Those ditches are very deep. There's no shoulder on Putnam County Boulevard. As Mr. Korn alluded to, there's lots of different types of vehicles, farm equipment. Some are wider than the half of the road that's been there for many years, and that's been happening. And the current residents of that area have come somewhat used to that. But the idea of having 160 units at possibly 2 persons per unit, and then now you've increased the foot traffic across the road, to me it's just a nightmare of having that 3-way stop and having pedestrians crossing, having farm equipment, having increased more foot traffic, more vehicle traffic, and the farm equipment and deep ditches. To me, it's a safety issue for me, and I just can't get there because of that safety issue.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What?
I didn't know if you wanted to do roll call, but.
I don't think it's gonna be necessary. I think it's gonna be
Okay.
if it turns out it looks close, I'll review it. Anybody against? That good enough for you, Commissioner?
That's fine.
Okay. It was 5-0 and unanimous that it was turned down, denied. Please, thank you for coming, but we've got other meeting to go yet. Okay, we're going to move back down to item C on the list, which we've already heard. I think it was outlined to us once, and we heard it again, and this is the second hearing of what we already passed with the changes that we passed. Is that correct, Zach?
No.
No, we'll be done before they're out the door.
So there were no revisions to this text amendment?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take it out in the lobby. We're still trying to have a meeting. Thank you, Zach. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So this was the text amendment for the utility-based dimensional requirements. There's been no changes since y'all first considered this text amendment.
Okay, is there any public comment on this particular text amendment? Okay, seeing none at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt Putnam County Ordinance 2023-021, ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending Article 5 or 7, Development, Design, and Improvement Standards, Division 2, Dimensional Requirements of Putnam County Land Development Code by amending Section 45-503E supplemental provisions, providing for severability and providing for an effective date, LDC 23-000001.
Can we have a motion? We have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, with all the noise, did we open for public comment on this?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
I did.
I just didn't hear.
I can do it again if you'd like, just to be sure. I don't mean, really, I'm
We
not
did.
being smart.
Just
For
with the amount of noise. I
consistency's
just didn't
sake,
hear.
I'd
We
like to
did.
make my
Okay,
comments.
I open it again, but we did. Okay, but thank you for calling me out, because I'll probably need supervision sometime in the future. This just wasn't it.
You're doing just fine, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion?
Yeah. As I think when we talked about this the last time, I just don't see the purpose for increasing density. And so I won't be supporting this.
Okay.
I have a question. I see the applicant, I know this is our second reading. The applicant, Michael Smith, he was the one who brought the Davis Lake vested platted subdivision to the board for approval.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Is this a way for him to circumvent the process?
Circumvent the process for the vesting?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
We've already
I know we've
vested
done
it.
the vesting, but my point is this allowing him to, we also said that we vested it, but we took out the exceptions. Is that right, Commissioner Adams? Zach? We said the exemptions.
We took out
removed
one of them,
one of the,
setback from the front, I think.
right. So my point is, does this allow him now to,
I don't think it does.
you don't think it does?
I don't
No,
know.
ma'am.
It's not
So,
very-
Wait a minute, one at a time here. I think it was said the first time around that this is stated separately in two different places,
Right.
different things, and we're trying to get it straightened out where it says the same thing in both places. And so if you don't like it, that's fine, but I'm gonna vote for this because I think, a lot area of a half acre is plenty if you have everything else in order.
I'm just trying to understand it.
yes, ma'am, this was not related to Davis Park whatsoever.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So,
Any further discussion? Yes, sir?
so would it be possible for us to change the language in the other section to match the
It
original
would be
language?
if you had two more votes to go along with you.
Thank you, brother.
Okay.
I'm just asking if it was theoretically possible.
All right. Chair will enter, this time the chair is going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it, motion carries 4-1. Okay, the, next is the text amendment D on your agenda, page 243 in your packet. Zach?
Yes, sir. So this was the Land Development Code text amendment for accessory dwelling units. During the first consideration, there was some discussion about the minimum square footage requirement. So originally it was 400 square feet. Staff suggested 500 square feet. And then the Board of County Commissioners requested, I want to say it was 325 square feet.
350.
What was it?
I think it was 375, but whatever the state required, right?
Well, so it was a certain square footage. We went back and we spoke to the chief building official for Putnam County and learned that the Florida Building Code does not establish a square footage. It was in the packets that was sent out to you. There was a memorandum. There's about 12 different criterias that are considered when figuring out dwelling units, single-family residence. Ultimately, we said we modified the proposal to where it would align with the Florida Building Code. So if the Florida Building Code allows for 280 square foot this year and 320 square foot next year, it would just be consistent with whatever the Florida Building Code allows for. And we also added in the language about citizens can pursue a zoning board of adjustment variance to exceed the 2,000 square foot, but under no circumstance would they be allowed to exceed 75% the square footage of the primary residence.
Yeah, unless it's going to turn into the primary residence afterwards.
Correct. Yeah, they would do a change of use for
And they
that.
could be up to 75% of the accessory use, which would be the existing use.
Correct.
Okay. The only problem I'm having, guys, I don't care if we got a minimum square footage in here. I don't think it should be 500 like Commissioner Adams Act wanted to not move it to 500. But I think there needs to be one in there, because I don't think you should have to be a damn nuclear physicist to figure out what the minimum size for a building is. And that's what you got to be in this. There's about 15 criteria that you got to go by to come and do this. And so I don't really care what you do. I just want it to be in black and white that the minimum square footage is X, not whatever the interpretation of the current building official says it is today, or if some other little part of the plan changes tomorrow and nobody knows what it is. So I don't care what you put in there, guys, but I implore you to put something in there, some kind of a minimum size. 375, leave it at 400. It's been 400 for years, hadn't created a problem ever. So,
Mr. Chairman, didn't you, when you were discussing this last time, and you're the contractor on this board, is 400 a reasonable size? I mean, you had it down of such and such a bedroom, such and such a bathroom, such and such a living room area. Would 400
I think
meet
it could
that?
be done in 400 feet, and I don't think that it needs to be much smaller than that. I mean, you got a small living room that's 10 by 12, that's 120. You got to have a bathroom, a small kitchen. I mean, a mother-in-law suite is going to be 400 foot or bigger. That's not what we're running into that I've seen in the last few years. It's the upper end of it that we've run into, and we're fixing that. No, so we're not open for public discussion at the moment.
But I thought that's how we got to 350, wasn't it, or 375?
Like 375.
Right, yeah, 375, 400.
I'm
I don't
all
care.
for it being established at 375 or 350.
That's fine with me. I just think something needs to be written in there, a minimum size. 375 works fine.
I'm good.
So we're gonna change that to 375, Zach, minimum. On page 3 of 8,
I got you for the ordinance.
under item G, just where it says accessory, we're gonna leave the language in there, but we're gonna change that to 375 square feet.
Gotcha.
I guess I have one question for Zach out of that conversation. Is the reason you guys wanted to change the wording because you think it's going to be greater than 375 at some point? Because currently you said it's 280, then 320. So,
Yeah, the intent, but.
because I don't want people building little boxes either that are so small that it's not usable.
So the intent was that, just like our land development code, the Florida Building Code is legislation that changes. And if we set a number on the minimum square footage, that it at some point could be exceeded by Florida Building Code, and then we would have to amend our text again to bring it into compliance with another document.
The thing about it is, if we got it in there that it's a minimum of 375, that means that it doesn't matter what the Florida Building Code says, it's got to be at least 375. If the Florida Building Code comes in and says it's 700, which it doesn't, but it says it's 700, it doesn't matter what your minimum is right here, because it has to be to that level. But then it's not open for interpretation on the current building official's formula. It's that it's 375 or whatever the building official proves that it has to be if it's bigger.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, I think, did we have a motion on that?
We have not.
Okay.
Do you need to open up public comment?
Is there any public comment on this issue? Now, if you'd like to say something, you can, sir. Try to hold it 3 minutes if you could.
Yes, sir. Joe Larguez previously said. So all I was saying is with that 375, it's making it, like you're saying, the formulas that you have to go through and the sizes of the bathroom, the closets, etc. That's the ordeal. And as far as you don't want somebody building something so small that it's mixed use. Like this is the kitchen, that's the living room. It's just one spot where they're turning around. And if you interpret the statutes, the Florida law thing, like you could get to that to where next thing you know, the kitchen is the bathroom sink and so on and so forth. And that's what you're trying to avoid. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt an ordinance of County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending Article 2, Permitted Uses, Division 4, Accessory Uses and Structures of the Putnam County Land Development Code by amending Section 45-109, Table 2.04A, Table of Accessory Uses and Structures, and Section 45-110, Supplemental Regulations for Accessory Use Structures 6, accessory dwelling unit provided for severability and provided for effective date of the Land Development Code 23-000002, with the idea that it would be no less than 375 square feet.
Under
Second.
Section G.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, now our next Public Works hearing would be for the vacation of Brewer Street in East Palaca. We've talked about this one multiple times too, right? Julianne, you want to say something?
We have. I just, if you need assistance, this is the applicant has made application to vacate the roadway. There's a 40-foot section of the right-of-way, which has created, he's got his house partially on that right-of-way, created a title issue. The applicants have provided a letter of no objection from adjacent property owners as well as utilities, and as well as county staff has no objection to it. This is the second hearing.
Okay, where exactly is this piece of property at? It's not alongside of the current Putnam County Boulevard anywhere?
East Palaca I'm sorry.
You're welcome to come forward, sir. I'm assuming the applicant?
Yeah, 100 Warwick Street, East Palaca, Bob Mahoney. 100 Warwick Street is my residence in East Palatka, and this actually runs next to my house.
But not between you and East River Road, it's the other way, okay?
No, it's over by the post office in
Okay.
East Palatka.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, is there any further public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to make a motion, but do we have a resolution number on this? We have a
Yes,
blank.
sir. The resolution number is on the agenda. Resolution 2023-142.
142?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept resolution number 2023-142. I was reading off of that. And may I just, Rich, is it okay if I just say by title only? Okay, by title only, there.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Next, we're going to open the floor for public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow the citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board will debate or enter into debate or deliberation. Public comments are conveniently placed in the meeting room entrance and should be submitted. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Do you have any cards, Ashley? Okay. We're not out of cards up there, are we, after all the people we had? Okay. All right, so is there anybody in attendance who would like to speak on agended items? On agended items?
Yes, sir. Under 8.
A through H.
So B under 10, code enforcements?
Not yet.
Sorry,
That's number 10. Oh.
that's agenda item.
Okay.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I'll close public comment at this time, and would anybody like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Commissioner Adams Act?
No, sir.
Commissioner Harvey?
No, sir.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
No, sir.
And I have none.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the consent agenda, items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. We don't have any new business for today, so we're going to move into code enforcement on fine reduction for, where's Thomas?
Brian, you can do it.
I mean, I can do it, it's not that tough.
Not that hard. For real.
The first case is a standard fine reduction. If you'd like to go ahead and take that, we can take them one at a time.
347,
Yeah,
page 347.
the original is case 2015-00034 is now in compliance. The total amount of the fine accrued was $50,062. Staff has calculated the actual hard cost of enforcement to be $2,398, as shown on the fine reduction worksheet.
Okay, is there anybody in attendance would like to speak for or against this? Okay, hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the staff recommendation and reduce the fine to the actual hard cost of $2,398 if paid within 90 days on case number 2015-00034.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, did you want to wait for Thomas on the next one, Julianne?
I'd prefer,
Okay.
if you give me just a minute.
You want to go to board minute? You want to appoint people?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do appointments while we're waiting on Thomas to show up.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's coming in the back door. That's why I said it like that. We'll go ahead and just hear that now.
I do have a question on this one.
Fine reduction?
No, we already
No,
did
we
that.
went ahead and did that one. No, the second one.
Second one.
Okay.
No. I don't.
Yes.
Yes.
No, sir, don't pay no attention to him and do what you need to do,
He's had
Thomas.
coffee this afternoon or something.
That's right, I've had coffee. Like Commissioner Goddard.
Yeah, somebody gave Larry coffee. I can't believe it. Logan, did you give Larry coffee?
Them two over there. No snacks, but coffee. Yeah, Commissioner Amzak had coffee. Snacks include cinnamon buns, remember?
Whenever you're ready, Thomas. No hurry, no pressure. Been such a short day today.
It ain't gonna work.
Want me to give you the printed version while this is doing?
All I'm doing is make it worse, aren't I?
Don't we have it in our packet?
No, he said he has a.
Yeah, we got it in our packet, Thomas.
We got some pictures in the packet for sure.
We got narrative.
You did. I printed you another version. Mine. What's up, man?
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
This is different than the one in the package, Thomas?
Updated.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thomas, you need to borrow the copy you just gave me to make the presentation.
Yeah, I see.
You know, if we didn't like you, we wouldn't give you a hard
I
time.
know.
There we go.
Okay, this is a abatement of foreclosure approvals request for case number 2020-536, 212 Sportsman Drive in Wielaka, Florida. We're asking the BOC to approve abatement of foreclosure on abatement foreclosure order granted by the special magistrate on 12/15/2021 for the property at 212 Sportsman's Drive in Wielaka, Florida, parcel number 33-11-26-8791-0000-2120. Property was first seen on October 19, 2020. A notice of violation was mailed to the address on the property appraiser on 10/20/2020 to 7 Cunningham Drive, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Certified letter was returned as not deliverable at the address listed. Per the Volusia County property appraiser, this is a valid address owned by Keado Russell, the property owner. A notice of violation and hearing was mailed by certified mail to the property owner on 1/11/2023, and this notice was also returned. The notice of violation and hearing was posted at the property on 1/29/2021. Special magistrate ruled violations did exist and gave the property owner until March 16, 2021 to be compliant. While the fines would begin on 3/17/2021, property was not compliant. Fines began on 3/17/2021. A notice of lien hearing was mailed by certified mail to the property owner for a hearing date set for July 20, 2021 to the address on file, and the notice was also returned. The hearing notice was posted at the property on June 16, 2021. The hearing notice was posted at the property on June 16, 2021, and it was not compliant on the date with the last PICS for the hearing on 7/15/2021. The special magistrate ruled the lien was valid. The lien was recorded with the public records on July 20, 2021, book number 1628, page 708. A notice of hearing for the abatement foreclosure was mailed by certified mail on October 21st, 2021, for a hearing date set for December 15th, 2021, and the posted on the site on 11/1/2021. The mailed hearing notice was also returned. Special magistrate ruled in favor of the abatement foreclosure order on December 15, 2021. The abatement foreclosure order was recorded on December 15, 2021, book number 1648, page 314. There has been no contact with the property owner for the entire duration of the case. A copy of the lien and abatement foreclosure order was regular mailed to the address given on the 2020 tax payment to 623 Crown Lane, Port Orange, on 9/26/2023. As of today, we have no contact with the property owner for the entire duration of the case. The property is still not compliant, and fines are still running. It is presumed that the property owner is deceased, but there are no records showing this information. The possible telephone number was found on People Finder with the same address listed on the property appraiser. Call 386-423-2657. Left several messages for 2 or 3 months, but there's been no return calls. Staff recommendations to approve, to abate, and/or foreclose on the lien for case 2020-536.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thomas, why don't we just foreclose on this and then put it in surplus property, not spend taxpayer money to abate this? Is there a reason that we're trying to look at foreclosure and abatement? Because we've been trying to avoid those costs. Somebody might buy this and do
this.
that.
This is just your approval to abate or foreclose.
So we could just choose foreclosure and
Yes, sir.
then put it out for surplus?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My only concern would be that if we're going to take that route, which I have no problem with, is that we do it.
Yeah.
Because I have a big aversion to taking somebody's property and the county sitting on it and it derelict just like it was before. What's the difference in us owning it and it be derelict and the people owning it and it be derelict?
I agree.
That's unfair.
Yeah, and that's the issue, because this is in District 1, it's in Sportsman's Harbor. And so this is sitting in between two really nice houses. It could be two really nice single-wide mobile homes. But the somebody's not responding. They are paying the property taxes on it. But they can't, no contact with him. But I think you're correct. If we're going to abate it, foreclose on it, we need to clean it up. Matter of fact, I would almost rather see, if we don't, let's clean it up, because that's the complaint I
Buddy,
get.
I told you I'd get to you in a minute, okay? You don't have to whistle at me and all that stuff.
Okay, so those are complaints of, we've mowed it a few times, but of rats in there and stuff like that. So it really needs to,
I don't have a
the building
problem
needs
with
to come
that.
down.
I don't have a problem taking it because it sounds like they can't figure out who owns it. So I don't have a problem foreclosing on it. What I do have a problem with, if we foreclose on it, that we wait a year or two and wait until later on when we decide to sell some more property and it goes through that procedure and what have you. Because in my book, if we're gonna take it, we need to clean it up and not just own it
I'm 100%.
already not cleaned up.
Exactly.
That's unfair.
It is. I'm
It's
with you
unfair.
100%.
So, I don't have a problem if that's what if you want to make that motion that we go on and foreclose and abate, I'm good. Yes, Rich?
Okay, so whatever your motion is, we will not own the property based upon your motion. What your motion is doing is allowing us to then file a lawsuit to foreclose on it.
Right, I understand.
Once we foreclose on it, it gets sold through the judicial process at a sale. The only way we would actually come into ownership of the property is essentially if no one meets the minimum bid. So,
Okay, well, even if that happened, though, they would buy it with a code enforcement lien upon it, correct? And then we could go after them to either clean it up at that point or come back for a possible reduction or abate it themselves, one or the other, correct?
I would say probably not. I mean, if we're going to go through the foreclosure process, honestly, then we're going to set the minimum bid probably around whatever you would accept as a commission as the code enforcement fine. So we'll try to wipe out those at the same time. I just wanted to say that we may not have to go through the the surplus process because the foreclosure process itself is going to actually take care of that.
Okay. So should we abate it before we foreclose on it?
Honestly, I think your initial kind of inclination is right. Just foreclose on it the way it is, let whoever inherits it, that's just part of what they'll have to deal with. Now, as the new property owner, if they don't do anything with it, it'll start a new code enforcement process.
I got you. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call for a public comment at this time. Now you can come up. I realize you already have, but if you'd give us name and address for the record again, please, sir.
Joseph Largay, 505 Wilson Road, Hastings, Florida. So yesterday I filed for the adverse possession of this property. I mowed the property. Prior to that, I attempted to contact the owner. I went to 7 Cunningham down in New Smyrna. That's when I discovered that there is no mailbox, hence all the return mail. The mailbox is currently in the bushes at the front door with all of the contents of it, and it looks like it's been rained on for months on end, if not years. But even that property was in similar disarray, and I asked the gentleman that I took with me as a witness, who has no records or knowledge of how to build a house or what it even takes to, anyways, the roof clearly is missing shingles. I asked the guy, I said, do you think anybody lives here, or is this a derelict house? He says, it looks like nobody lives here. I'm like, well, how do you tell? And so all the stuff at the front door. On the front door was a business card from New Smyrna Beach Code Enforcement. The grass was freshly cut, obviously by code enforcement. I spoke to New Smyrna, a couple of different females that work there. The one lady said she's been with the county for 4 years, and that property had a stack of citations even then when she started. She said they've never been able to get a hold of Mr. Bruce Russell or Cheeto. And then I did not go to the Port Orange address, but my whole thing is always just go one more step. And like you were just saying, like, well, what if we take this guy's property and then he shows up? And it's like, so the due diligence and then the grace periods and then the attempts to contact. Like back in the day, we used to also serve somebody papers. Well, now it's you just mail them something, and who's to say they go to their mailbox or not? So I went to knock on that guy's door down there to see, like, maybe he's dead. Maybe he's inside the house, or maybe he's a hermit and he doesn't want to go to the mail. Like, what's the problem? But I, too, attempted all these different things. I was like, okay, well, first and foremost, I'll cut the grass. Like, if all the neighbors are complaining about the grass, cut the grass, Joey. So, but before you do that, file for the adverse possession. I did that, cut the grass. I'm still working on the place, but I wasn't going to invest too much time, as my time is money, as everybody else's. But, I mean, yeah, that grass is, that picture, it's a solid 3 to 4 feet tall. Like, some of it still exists because that's actually a type of pea, like split peas, that somebody must have thrown in the yard so it would make flowers. But it's Yes, it's really thick. I've cut most of that, and like I said, I wasn't going to invest too much, but the neighbors, I've spoken to 2 of them, and obviously they're upset as it looks in disarray, but I didn't own it then. I was simply cutting it till you guys figured it out, and then it turns out with code enforcement that this has already been on your guys' list for some time, and that it's already county maintained, but as that picture shows, and as I can attest, and all the neighbors, it was over like 3 to 4 feet tall. So county isn't really maintaining it. I stepped in, I did that.
I'm having trouble following this, Jody. So basically what you're saying is you cut the grass, so now it's yours?
No, well, the process is you file for adverse possession. Mr. Rich seems like he probably could tell you.
Yeah, so there's a Florida statute that allows for adverse possession. The common law requirements are that somebody hold the property open notoriously and continuously for at least 7 years.
Correct.
Florida added to that, I want to say like 5 years ago. The legislature made a change where because of those 3 criteria, you now actually have to file a form with the property appraiser to put people on notice. But candidly, our foreclosure is going to be done long before your 7 years runs.
Yeah.
Well, so the foreclosure process is only takes place if and when the criteria is not met. And so all I have to do is come in compliance with code enforcement, pay the fines, and then we're in compliance.
And wait 7 years.
And wait 7 years,
Yeah,
certainly.
we're going to foreclose on it.
I've got the rest of my life. No, but you're only going to foreclose if the fines aren't paid. I'll be paying the fines, and then there's no foreclosure.
I guess we'll deal with it in court.
Yeah, so part of that AP process, it says there that I have within 1 year of filing the paperwork to come in compliance. So that's paying taxes, any fines, maintenance of the property, those things to be taken care of. And so that's, like I said, I intend on doing all of that. And I do own other properties in the county. I intentionally go for the ugliest things in the nice neighborhoods or even the ugly neighborhoods because change is coming. And where something's already established, somebody put money and time into it, it's worth putting a little bit more, fixing it. As all the neighbors there would agree, it appears to be a nuisance, so change the nuisance, and there you go. And so that's what I look to do.
I don't know how mowing the grass creates possession of a home.
No, the paperwork I filed.
It doesn't, and even the paperwork filed as a step doesn't actually.
It's a
transfer.
step in the direction of.
And just
Wait a
like our
minute.
last.
Don't interrupt him when he's speaking.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think he interrupted you, so just,
Yes, sir.
okay, sorry, Rich, go ahead.
No, sir. So just like our last reduction was $50,000, I don't even know what the code enforcement lien is at this point.
I haven't totaled it up, but it's high. It's over 3 years worth, so it's pretty high.
It'll be substantial.
Correct. So, yeah, and just like the last reduction, right? So it went from 50,000 to 2397.
Not necessarily.
So.
Okay, well,
all right.
I'm gonna try to take this in a little different direction. I'm not gonna stand here today and debate with you over whether you're right or he's right or whatever, because I truly don't give a damn. So if you'd please go over there and sit down, what we're gonna do is try to take the recommendation from staff and move forward with it if the commission wants to do that, which is to foreclose and or abate. So, is there any further public discussion? Yes, sir. If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Robert Sanders at 905 South 12th Street here in Palatka. I was interested in this property too, been watching and checking on it. But I was just waiting to hear that there was going to foreclosure and see what kind of price was involved in this. My assumption on this property down there is not a deteriorated property, other than just the grass being overgrown. I'm interested in the property. If it goes to foreclosure, I'd like to make a bid, but from the sounds like it, if the attorney, I may not have a choice at this point, but that's why I was coming to find out what kind of fee was going to be imposed by the code enforcement. So maybe, I don't know if the attorney can give that advice now, if this gentleman has preference over what is happening, or I can wait for the foreclosure that you're going to go through.
I really don't know what the answer to that question is that you just asked. I think that the board's probably going to take staff recommendation, foreclose on this today, and And if we end up owning it, which just because we vote to foreclose doesn't mean we'll ever own it. It could be purchased at foreclosure or whatever. And then at that point, then it would be, if the county does own it, though, I'm going to insist as part of this motion that we're going to do something with it if we do take possession of it sometime in the future, or I'm not voting for it.
Right.
So, I think that's where we are, if that helps with your questions.
Just wait for foreclosure notice like normal then.
Well, if that's what the board votes to do today, but I'm just assuming at this point that they'll take the staff recommendation and move forward with foreclosure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if we move forward with the foreclosure and/or abatement, where is it to where this property would go for sale? It's not your average piece of property.
I understand, but what it would do is it would go up to foreclosure at first. Whenever they foreclose on it, they'd have a foreclosure sale, and it would, just like a bank foreclosing on a piece of property, they'll sell it at the courthouse steps. And
Take
then
bids on it.
it's probably online nowadays. Used to be on the courthouse steps, but they'll have an auction and they'll bid on it, and whatever our minimum bid is to cover our costs on the thing or whatever would be the basis, and then everybody else gets to bid it up from there. If there's 3 of these guys that wants to bid on it, then they can bid on it right on up to whatever they want to, and I guess the additional money would then go to the possible heirs of the estate. The county wouldn't get it. All they're gonna get is their costs.
Okay.
So, but then whoever the new owner is, we could start a codes case again on that, because I don't think even under foreclosure that at that point we can go and abate it. We have to own it to abate it, or either abate it and put a lien on it and then foreclose on it. So if y'all want to do that, that would be another option, but it'd be kind of a pain in the ass to go and do all that. Well, we got money, Julianne. We got the money because we got $100,000 in the abatement fund that we ain't spent. So, I mean, that could be done. But the thing is, I don't know that's to be the proper way to go with it. I don't know that it wouldn't be better in the interest of the taxpayer to actually, foreclose on the property. If we end up owning it, then we'll abate the property out with our abatement funds, and then we'll sell it. Because this particular piece of property, I think, would bring enough money to pay for the abatement and everything else involved. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
that we go ahead and foreclose on codes case number 2020-00536 with the idea that if it comes in possession of the county within 30 days, we put it out on surplus sale. Does that satisfy?
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, but what you're saying is, though,
If we come in possession,
if we come in possession of it, then we're going to abate it.
we're going to send it back out to surplus sale, land sales within
I'm not
30
going to
days.
vote for that, because it takes a year to switch this over. And so if we're going to own it, if we end up owning this piece
You
of
wanna abate
property,
it
I
immediately?
want to abate it, because this piece of property will make money.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion that we foreclose codes case number 2020-00536, and if it comes into possession of Putnam County, we abate it within 30 days.
And then put it on the list.
Then put it on surplus properties.
I'm in my second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That suit you, Rich? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner?
Given that conversation, why wouldn't we just debate it now? I mean, you have people living there looking at this particular piece of property.
But we don't own it.
But we can debate it.
No, we can abate it. I mean, that's a legitimate question. I mean, candidly, it's a business decision for the county.
Right. We have money in the abatement fund.
Even though you have money, we rarely ever recover the money for abatement. So knowing that in however many abatements we perform, we rarely, and usually it's a safety issue when a local government goes onto someone else's property and either boards it up. I mean, I don't see many abatements on, I mean, I understand there's the rat issue, but you have to make the decision. I mean, it's probably a faster process to just go through and foreclose on it and let somebody else handle that.
Okay.
Any Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay. Now if I can find my agenda. Okay, we've done that and that. I think that's all of our code enforcement, isn't it, Thomas? Okay, any appointments, Commissioner Adams Act?
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey?
I have none.
Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, I do. On the Fair Authority, I want to thank Johnny Greenwood. Johnny Greenwood resigned from the Fair Authority. He served over 20 years and was an excellent member there. And I'd like to, it's a district appointment, I'd like to appoint Michelle Grimes.
Do we know her? Has she been properly vetted?
She's going through the process. Her application out already.
Yeah, I know.
A little levity never
I
hurt.
know, it doesn't hurt a thing, especially when it's approaching 3:47. Okay, so, is that the only one you had, Commissioner?
Yes, that's all I have.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
I have none.
And I have none today. Okay, public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board will engage or debate will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed in the meeting room entrance and should be submitted. To Ashley over here raising her precious hand. So with that being said, do you have any cards, Ashley? Okay.
She's out of cards.
She's out.
Out of cards.
We got to get a case printed.
Anybody that would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Seeing how Commissioner Reynolds is not here, I believe one of y'all wanted to say something, didn't you?
Commissioner Reynolds?
Or, excuse me, the Honorable Matt Reynolds.
Honorable, yes. He's in Tallahassee speaking at New Clerk Academy. He just wanted to remind you about the public free shred event tomorrow at 120 Carter Road from 3 to 5. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Next is Captain Commando.
Just have a happy Thanksgiving next week and be safe.
I hear you, brother. Thank you. County Administrator, Mr. Terry Suggs.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's getting close to 3:47, and I've had advice from council not to do this, but the minimum lot size, and I want to take the blame and the heat for that, not staff. I'm the one that, when we had our conversations after the meeting, wanted to see if we could streamline the process. So if the building code did ever change, then we would still be in compliance. But I certainly understand where you're going with that. So just want to make sure I took the heat for that one, not the staff. And secondly, Commissioner, you want, okay, I'll go ahead and do this. As you know, Commissioner Wilkinson was given the lead, and she asked me to assist in the process of meeting with the city of Palatka regarding our Memorial Bridge lighting project. We've reached out to several of the city commissioners. We've actually had 3 meetings to date. We're trying to schedule the last 2. Once we get through the whole process and can get with all 5 of them, we'll come back to the board and let you know what the results of those meetings were, and if we'd like to move forward and entertain discussions with the city commission at that time regarding the Memorial Bridge project.
Well, after today, you can talk to somebody else about when he wants us, or he or she wants to set it up.
Yeah, I understand, sir. And again, that's all my comments, but happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Adams Act.
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey, I see you actually have something on here. My apologies for not calling on you.
No, you're fine, sir.
I had overwritten it, so I didn't see it.
You're fine. Every 2 years, every year, the FACT Board, Florida Association of Counties Trust, I am actually the chairman of the board of that trust again this year, but we just need to renew with the fact that I need board approval from my local board to continue serving in that role as a board appointee to the FACT board.
So moved.
Thank you.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
For discussion?
Yeah, for discussion, we all have our, yeah.
What are you gonna,
For real?
what are you gonna do, blackmail him out of something at FAC to get your vote?
No, I just want to thank him for serving in that capacity.
Oh, okay.
He represents
welcome.
Putnam County very well.
You're welcome. On another
A
note,
little
Mr.
levity.
You want to take a vote?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Commissioner Turner and fellow board members, today I'll be headed to Tampa along with our esteemed administrator. He's going to be joining me at the Florida Association of Counties Legislative Affairs meeting down in Tampa. So thank you.
You made him go with you, huh?
I did. Time to get involved.
Okay, good deal. Commissioner, was that the end of your comments?
That's the end of my comment.
Commissioner Pickens.
Thank you, Chairman Turner. I just want to recognize Dr. Curvella and the Putnam First Cancer Fund. They had their annual Denim and Diamonds fundraiser last Friday, and it's a live and a silent auction to raise money for their foundation, which fund people with expenses during their cancer treatment process. So, and it was well attended, and only cost me $275 this time for a pink flamingo bag.
Did you buy that?
Yes, I did.
Again?
Well,
You're gonna
see-
have a whole yard of the thing.
Well, you got an umbrella now, a pink flamingo bag. So
okay.
hopefully she doesn't watch this because it's her Christmas present. So
I got you.
anyway, I want to recognize McKinley Evans and some of the veterans in Crescent City, the mayor of Crescent City. They organized a Veterans Day parade in Crescent City again. It's the second year they had it, so I attended that, and we had a ceremony in the park. And so I just want to thank all the veterans for their service, and I just want to wish everybody also a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Harvey, did you have something to add?
I did.
sir?
I forgot, sir, and I apologize.
No
Probably
problem.
steal a little bit from Commissioner Wilkinson, but credit needs to go to where it needs to go. And at the 1024 Foundation and the town of Interlaken, Commissioner Wilkinson really stepped up to the plate for the adoption of the pets that took place. And our staff really got into high gear in the town of Interlaken. Some miscommunications happened there, but able to pull off 2 adoptions in 2 different areas of the county. And Commissioner Wilkinson, it goes without being said that you're a staunch supporter of animals, and I can tell you that it was a very well put together event. So thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Wilkinson, did you have some comments for us today?
I did. I wanted to add to that. I thought the animal control team worked really, really hard. There was actually 3 adoptions held on Saturday, November 4th, one in Mandarin, the one in Interlaken, and East Palatka, which rendered 12 dogs being able to be adopted. And the week before that, they were at Tractor Supply, which there were 7 dogs that were adopted there. So within 2 weekends, we were able to adopt out 19 dogs in Putnam County, and to me, that's a big win, and I have to thank our staff for that. I think this achievement speaks volumes about the commitment and hard work that we have at Animal Control among our staff. And secondly, I want to mention that November 20th through the 30th, I would like to propose doing a $5 adoption for the animals that are fixed only, and we would call that Happy Thanks for Giving. F-U-R, for giving. So I'm just asking for approval if you guys would approve
You
a
want
$5.
a motion or just raising our hand?
Wave and support.
Wave and support would
Wave
be
and
great.
support.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you. And then lastly, I want to recognize State Representative Bobby Payne. He was recognized by at the annual Florida Water Forum by the Associated Industries of Florida for his water policy, and he received the very first award named after Adam Putnam. And I think this is just, he's a dedicated public servant and has been certainly served Putnam County well, but he realizes the importance of water and having good water policy in the state of Florida. So I just wanted to recognize him and congratulate him on that very deserving award.
I agree.
That's all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, very quickly, a couple of things. Where are we at on Beaton Ball Park as far as getting those improvements done that we funded? There was like a shade cloth and some other stuff that we were gonna do over there.
Yes, sir. We are in stages. We're waiting on final installation. They've gotten their permits, and we're waiting on the materials to be in. We are pending an October, November. That was the ETA from the vendor. So hopefully should see something by the end of this month for the shade structure and the playground area.
That's what I thought, October, and this is November. That's the reason I was asking.
Well, yeah, October, November was their ETA, and we'll get an update for you.
Okay, thank you. Also, I didn't want to bring this up until after the case was heard today on East River Road and Putnam County Boulevard, but even before I'd ever heard about that, that particular zoning case was coming to the board. One of the things that I think this board needs to very seriously consider is how to fix the road from East River Road to 17. Now, we've tracked down ownership of part of we own a little bit right there across the street from Raceway, but then there's another sliver that goes around the corner that that we had contacted the people that own the property, and they basically have ghosted Miss Julianne as far as answering her back once she explained to them. So, and then from McCormick Road to East River Road, DEP owns the property. So before I went any further here, I felt like I needed to come to the board and make sure we weren't just spinning our wheels, that we were on board here to try to put together a dirt to pave, for that road. If we wait any longer, we're not going to be able to do it, because if they go ahead and develop that across the property in front of the old fertilizer plant, then they'll stop access to there. So DEP seems to own the property from McCormick to East River Road. We want to go to them and start talking to DEP. We want to take it a step further, which may mean that we actually enter into, depending on what Rich decides to do with it, we may even enter into eminent domain to get the little sliver of property right beside the road between the end of our road and McCormick Road. Definitely there would be a public purpose on it. So I think if we don't fix that, we're not going to ever get a chance to fix it. So discussion.
Do we have a process in place? Have we done eminent domain before, would be my first question. And second, is there a process, an established process in place for that to happen? And the reason where I'm going with that is when I worked at the water management and did this for 15 years, there were only 2 cases in the whole 15 years I was there that we actually enacted and did eminent domain. So obviously the goal is always to try to work with a landowner, and even if you work with a landowner, there is a process that's usually in place that follows Florida statute. So what do we have? Do we have that in our, I mean, I know we've got the statute, but have we ever, what have we done in the past? Anything like that?
We've always worked with the property owner, so no, we haven't actually exercised eminent domain, at least in the recent history that I'm aware of. But yes, we would just follow the statute.
Okay.
And I think that, I absolutely agree, that would be the last step we take. But if that's a tool in the toolbox, we reached out to them and they started talking to us and asked us what we were going to do with the property. And we tried to explain them we were going to just widen the road, so we just needed a strip right in front of their property to widen the road. And they basically ghosted Julianne, won't call her back, won't talk to her, won't send her email back, won't do anything. Well, it's just not acceptable. I mean, they can either, I want to turn it over to Rich and let him reach out. This guy's an attorney, and let our attorney reach out to their attorney, and maybe they can work something out in between them. But I want them to know there's some teeth here. If they don't talk to us, there's some teeth here, because we need to have that piece of property to widen that road right through that section.
Explain the section again.
If you're coming from your house and you turn right at Raceway towards Public Works, we own a short piece there on the right, and then it's the rest of the land on the right in front of the old fertilizer place that goes all the way around to McCormick Road. There's a strip through there that these people own that own the 20 acres behind it. And so if I owned the property, which doesn't mean anything, I'd be jumping up and down for joy that you're going to widen the road in front of my place, because it would expand the possibilities of what I could put there with the additional access. But when I tried to explain that to them, and Julianne sent it to them in an email, evidently that's when they ghosted her. So they must not have liked my opinion or my suggestion or whatever, but, I mean, that'd be a win-win for everybody. And then maybe we could get it on the dirt and pave list to try to go in there and widen that area.
Okay. How far down is McCormick?
McCormick's where the post office is that runs in front of Beaton Ball Park.
Okay. All right.
So that would give us, this land would be from the end of the land we already own across the street, and it just stops. And then it runs into this strip of property, and then that would get us around to McCormick. And then from McCormick, DEP owns the land all the way to East River Road, which would be a whole different set of talking to them or whatever to see if we would maintain the bike trail or do whatever through there, that they would give us some more property to widen that road to 3 or 4 lanes, all the way from 17 all the way into, it is bad, like the resident said today, it is bad. And if we don't fix it now, if some of that stuff goes in and later on develops, you're not going to ever get your hands on it to fix it later on. So,
I think we should allow the attorneys to talk.
huh? I'm so glad you do. Is it very pertinent to what we're doing?
Who owns the property you're trying to get it from?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Some corporation out of Miami.
Not Florida, East Coast?
No, sir. It was a corporation, same people that own Ken, if you're gonna talk, you're gonna have to come to the microphone. We're recording the meeting. It's a company that owns a old fertilizer plant there.
Well,
I'll look it up and see if I can make contact with them.
Well, Julianne's tried and has made contact with them, but then they just stopped talking to her whenever they got to a certain point, and it could be the guy's just busy. If the commission allows me, we're gonna turn this over to Rich today and let him contact them.
You tell me you don't want me to do it, I won't do it.
Well, if Rich decides he needs your help, I'll let him reach out to you. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should turn it over to Rich and let him.
Okay, Rich, can we turn that over to you and see if you can't work something out? If you need further direction from the board, then maybe our next chairman will let you bring it back. I'm very interested in it and seeing that happen. Also, a quick update on
support.
Yeah, wave of support. Okay. The Duns Creek boat ramp, now that we own it, we've determined that, of course, that they only gave us a piece of it, and so when they split it off, they didn't do it through a regular lot split process, and so they just cut some of it off. And so right now, planning and zoning is going through the lot split process, and for that to start, we've got to have a real survey. So Wes is working on the survey.
That came in today, and we've already gotten a parcel number assigned to it. So
Okay,
that's
so we're a
been done.
lot closer. So now we've got to take it and get the zoning changed on it, we figured out. And so we're gonna start the PUD process. Hopefully, if we got a parcel today, you can convince Zach to get it on the December planning commission.
We can ask him.
Okay, well, tell him we'd appreciate it.
We will.
And if we can get that done, then maybe we can hear it in January, and by then, maybe we'll have our other stuff done as far as our survey finished from Wes and our price from our continuing services engineer to go in there and design it and do whatever. So I just want to let you know that process is moving forward as fast or as hard as we can make it move, now that we actually own the property. Okay, I think those are the 3 things I had. So is there anything else to come before the board today? Seeing none, this meeting is hereby adjourned.